we're just ready to start. And the second panel, we have the stage set in a very nice way. We've got the whole concept of digitalization of industry that we will look at a little bit more closely. And everything that we heard about broadband, everything we heard about what it is doing for humanity, we are going to hear from some industry real denizens that we have invited here for the evening to give us a view as to what it has done to their own industries. And we have some of our, favorite industries that we like for the last so many years. It can be automotive, it can be the telecom industry itself, how digitalization is affecting it. It would be looking at a very conventional utility industry, let's say, and we all see as to what is the impact of this going to happen. To discuss this and to enlighten us in this August house, let me call upon again to start with my co-host and partner, Mr. Rajan Mathews from COAI. Rajan is going to help us moderate this panel, and thanks a lot, Rajan, for that again, after a stellar performance in the first one, I must say. Let me invite my boss and MD, Ericsson India, Mr. Paolo Colella. We have three special guests with us, ladies and gentlemen. The first one is from traditional industry. We've got Mr. Kamal Bali coming in from Volvo India, and he's the Chief Executive of Volvo India Limited. We have with us one more industry which is undergoing disruption because of the advent of broadband and connectivity. We've got, none other than the Chief Executive of Tata Power in Delhi Limited, Mr. Praveer Sinha. Mr. Sinha, can I welcome you on the dais? And we have an absolutely special guest. I owe him a lot this evening. I'm going to make up in the evening, as soon as we finish this, our own favorite industry hero, Mr. Arvind Bali. Thank you. And we have Rajan, who's going to start off the proceeds.
Thank you very much, Hemant. Manoj, thank you for the kind introduction and for the invitation to the panelists. So, Paolo, let me start off with you, since we've set the sort of vision for 5G and 4G and the sort of movement to this new world that we're talking about. And one of the things that you talked about as the differentiator is the fact that, 3G, 4G is person-to-person type of focus. Here we're moving into person to things and things to things. So set us in terms of what is Ericsson doing. You talked about some of the things you were doing with Volvo, the smart cars, but give us a feel for some of the other areas that come online as a result of this new brand world we're going into.
It is true. What is happening is that while we have been mostly building networks for person-to-person communication so far, what we are thinking now is how do we enable many more use cases. Some things we have already seen, right? So as the mobile digital technologies become more and more widespread, we also see another phenomenon that is important, and Ulf was mentioning it in his first slide, which is the incredible development of connected devices. Basically, the way we see it in Ericsson is that anything that will benefit from being connected will be connected. And as obviously digital integration becomes more and more available, we will see a profound transformation of all business models. In the second half of the 90s, we've seen the internet revolution coming, disrupting and transforming many industries with a sort of a movement that was fundamentally desktop-centric. Now, as the internet is reaching the hands of every individual, both as a citizen, as a corporate citizen, but also devices can be connected, we see a proliferation of new business models. And this will have a big impact on the networks, and we have conceived networks until now, because we will have to cope with different types of demands from different applications. There will be applications that will be latency hungry, like self-driving cars. Imagine the relevance of correcting the route or avoiding collisions. We are talking about remote surgery being one of the viable business cases for remote health, which will have an enormous benefit on society, even thinking about the impact can have on India itself. So latency. Other applications will be extremely sensitive on power. We talk about remote sensoring. We have seen applications that are able to monitor the status of sensors in the middle of the forest to prevent logging or poaching. also very relevant, thinking about the protection of the tiger in India, or the poaching against animals in extinction, or logging. These applications require that the sensors have to be pulled very seldom. You need to make sure that for the business case to be viable, you need to protect the battery to make sure that you can just go and change the batteries every couple of years. And that means that the network in that case need to adjust to that need and maybe be more like to what the GSM, low power GSM can enable. And there will be bandwidth hungry applications, especially around video, that will demand large amounts of bandwidth. So how do we build networks that can cope with all these demands? So we're looking at 4G. We are thinking, how do we enhance the experience of today? How do we build new possibilities to make connectivity between devices and between people a real booster for society and for business? So that's the thinking behind 5G.
So you just recently moved to Delhi, right? So which part of driving would you like to have 5G applied to in terms of smart sensors on cars?
I think it would be good to kind of have a nap while you're driving in Delhi.
So let me go over to Praveen. Praveen, Paolo talked about, electricity, the power grid, and what is going to happen as a result of some of the innovations coming down the pike over here. What are you seeing on the power grid in terms of what's going on and what the potential is and what could transform the whole industry as a result of some of the 5G and sort of transformative issues that Paolo talked about?
First of all, thank you, Rajan and COAI, for having me over here. Well, the power sector is going through huge transformation. It is for the first time in last 100 years, the type of transformation that we are seeing is whereby everything is getting connected. And as Paolo mentioned, that we are moving to a world where every equipment needs to be connected with each other, and that has to happen on real-time basis. Because no one can today live without power. There cannot be interruptions. There cannot be any call drops, no power supply drops that can take place. And that is why it is necessary that how do we do the convergence of the traditional electrical energy with the communication and IT technology. And that is the way today we are working towards that. Some of the things that we have done is all our today grid stations, all our equipments have sensors, have relays, have equipment which senses what needs to be done. And most of the equipments are run on remote. That means today all our grid stations are unmanned. There's no one over there to operate those equipments. Today you have fault passovers. That means you have the sensors which identifies where exactly the fault has taken place. It sends a signal to the breakdown crew that there is a fault at this place. It also sends a signal to the call center and to the consumer informing that there is a fault that has happened in your area, and within half an hour or 15 minutes we'll attend the fault. Or there can be a passover that can be there through the N-1 arrangement. So typically we see that today the consumer is expecting that 24/7 remains actually 24/7. In fact, a couple of years back, and now also in some of the remote areas, when they say 24/7 electricity, traditionally it does not mean 24/7 in one day, it means 24 hours of supply in 7 days. So that's typically happening in many parts. But I think the desire is there from the consumer. And when we do our analysis, we see that if we have not sent a message to the consumer informing them about a fault, the average time that we get the first call informing us that there is no supply is about 1.5 minutes. So that is the time that people are today ready to wait for things to get set right, or if it doesn't, then they call you up. And I think today when we are moving to a situation where we have choices, competition will come in power, it will no longer remain a monopolistic service. There is a necessity to connect with the consumers on a real-time basis. In fact, just to share with you that Make in India, the ranking of India came down from 142 to 130. And one single aspect which really brought down this rating was getting the electricity connection. Out of the 10 parameters which the World Bank looks at, in 5 of the parameters, India's rating was the same as last year. In 3 parameters, India's rating moved up by 1 position, and in 1, it moved up by 6 position. In getting electricity, it moved from 137 to 70. And this was only in 2 cities that they did the analysis. They did the assessment for city of Mumbai, and in Delhi, they did in our area in north and northwest. So today, I think the desire and the expectation from the consumer is that they need to know on real-time basis that what is the supply that is taking place. And I think we need to rise to the occasion. The aspirations of the people is there, and we need to provide them solutions which can be there. And especially more so when today we are talking of that we will go and get a lot of renewable energy. That's a paradigm shift that will take place in this country, and all over the world it is taking place. That how do you ensure that all of a sudden 20,000 megawatt of wind energy or solar energy all of a sudden goes away from the grid because there is a cloud cover or the wind speed has gone down. And this has to be done on real time. It cannot be that we get information after half an hour or 1 hour and then ramp up the plant to start generating the conventional coal-based or gas-based plant. So these are the type of requirements, the complications, and the sensitivities which are coming in the market. And I think there's a huge role that has to be played where the convergence of technology, communication technology, and IT, along with the electrical technology, has to play a major role.
So Praveen, just a follow-up question. 30 years ago, when we started moving away from mainframes and started going to desktops, people used to say, you know what, you guys are going to have so much free time, you won't know what to do with your leisure time, and I'm working harder today than I ever worked in my life, right? And this is with all of the gadgets and convenience we have. So as the grid becomes more smart, and as we start connecting IoT things and things to things and everything else, do you see power requirements increasing? Well, they have to get smarter, clearly, but what are you seeing in terms of the demand factor for power? Minister, you heard him talking about right down to Gram Panchayat level type stuff. So how do the two things work together?
Well, the power requirement is definitely increasing. In fact, we still have nearly 300 million people who are not connected, and there's another 300 million who are connected, but they don't get continuous supply. They get as and when it is supplied. So the requirement is definitely increasing. But there is also a catch in this, that the requirement is for certain hours of the day. It is not that it is on a constant basis for 24 hours. So you have certain hours which are peak and certain hours when you don't have that peak. And just to give you an example, in Delhi, we have a peak, a summer peak of 6,000 megawatt. And in winter nights, it goes down to 1,500. So you end up making a grid and tying up so much of power, which is to meet your 6,000 requirement. And in winter, you don't know what to do with that. So these are the changes which are taking place. And how do you integrate it to ensure that on a country level, on a countrywide pan-India basis, we have the flow of power without getting bogged down with the peak requirement and meeting our load on a constant basis. And I think that's the technology and that's the change which can happen. There are a lot of new technologies which have come on demand response and how do you do also energy storage and things like that. But those are, again, things which one has to integrate into the grid. And those are the new challenges which one has to take care.
Thank you. Kamal, over to you. Now in India, it's like Xerox, nobody talks about copying, everybody talks about Xerox. Now, when people want to do long distance, they talk about Volvo, It's become a generic term for, long distance travel because the Volvo bus has become the standard of comfort and, being able to get there in comfort. So how is all of this going to impact transportation? We heard some of the things that were mentioned, but you know our roads, you know our driver situations. So talk to us about what this means for the transportation industry and for Volvo especially.
Thank you, Rajan, for those very generous comments about Volvo. Really, thank you for that. Thanks to the public, the Indian people who have really taken over to Volvo as a good means of transportation. And I'm happy we're working on it continuously, and we'll keep doing better at that. Well, coming to the topic, very, very clearly, I think the fact that it's going to be an integrated world, it's going to be a connected world, is a foregone conclusion. I think speaker after speaker this afternoon has talked about it. So our industry is no different. I think customers are demanding smart products, smart services delivered in a very smart way. So I think manufacturing industry also has to realign itself, has to unlearn some of our practices which we have been doing over the years, and get ready for this new paradigm. So the two things are happening in our situation in the manufacturing industry. One is at our own internal level. We are moving from traditional factories to smart factories, where machines, there are thousands of sensors on the shop floor, machines are talking to each other. We move from preventive maintenance to predictive maintenance. So a huge amount of digital technology is being used. A lot of information, communication technologies are being used to really bring a new paradigm in our manufacturing itself. So that's the first part which actually makes a significant difference. And this is all technology-led innovation. And this is a big piece which is coming along with what we have been talking in the afternoon. The other piece is the customer-facing piece, where Volvo has been working. Volvo has a telematics division. We've been working for a very, very long time. For the last 8 years, we've been connecting vehicles, we've been connecting our trucks, we've been connecting our buses to give a better experience to the customers, to users, to drivers. So this is driven by 2 or 3 facts. The technology upgradation has been driven by 3 or 4 important drivers, I would say. One is globalization, other is urbanization, third is pressure on life cycle costs, fourth is environmental issues. How do we improve the CO2 impact? How can we reduce the CO2 impact? How do we get new fuels? How do we shore up safety measures? So telematics is doing all about that. So now the next step, what we are working on is from vehicle health management system to traffic and street management system. The next which you would see is autonomous driving. So you will see very soon, if legislation's permitting, you will see an autonomous truck. You will have platooning. You will have one truck in the front, which will be followed by a series of 10 trucks, which will be driverless. So they will all follow, they'll be connected to the first one, and they will follow and trail the first one in whatever it does. So huge amount of technology happening, and in fact, our sister company, which is the Volvo Cars, has a great collaboration going on with Ericsson on their cloud platform. So a lot of work is happening. So this is a paradigm shift, to my mind, which is coming in our industry as well.
So Kamal, so let me take it to the next step. You know, with increasing smartness and transformation through software, hardware, and all of this sort of thing, also comes regulatory challenges. You know, I don't want to pick on anything, but you know, I'll mention the Volkswagen issue. Yeah. All right. So here's the regulatory requirement. Very smart. You know, all of a sudden you think you have the ability to monitor and to sense and do all of this, and you know, in that context, it was very difficult for the regulator and the monitors to be able to say, hey, what's going on here? And you know, it's just a one-off chance that this whole thing came to light. So how does the government and the regulator, you know, gain comfort that, hey, listen, with all this sophistication that's going on, companies are going to be able to conform to emissions and global gases and all of this stuff?
I think digital maturity and responsibility, I think that's the key word. I mean, that's one of the challenges which you're going to face in any case with technology, with I think the system is not yet fully matured. People do not to what extent they can go with technology. I mean, there is hacking, there are chances of hacking, which can lead to tremendous safety hazards. So I think coming to that, so the key thing at Volvo what we do is that after these emission tests are done on a COP basis, so there is a test out of every 10 vehicles on the road. After 6 months of their flying, we do those tests again. So Volvo is committed to doing those things. I think it has to come from within the organizations. And as we have been mentioning in the afternoon session, I think ultimately it's a partnership of different stakeholders. Not one stakeholder can manage the entire ecosystem. Everybody will have to be involved. Manufacturers, users, regulators, all of them have to get their act together to say, we will not take this. And then the punishment has to be severe. If you are found wanting in some deliberate, I mean, if there is a deliberate attempt to go over a system, I think the punishment has to be severe. I think that's the only way to go forward.
So, thank you, Kamal. Let me go over to Arvind. Arvind, here we are, talking about smart and broadband and mobility, and you just sold all your spectrum, at least a good part of it, right? So what do you know that we don't know going forward about smart cities and broadband?
It is all old issue of incumbent players and the new players, so that those kind of comments keep coming. As far as very rightly in the earlier panel it was discussed, that the big change which is going to come in this country is, 15, 20 years back we saw a revolution where from fixed line we moved to wireless. Now is the time coming, when wireline will get a lot of importance. Ultimately, like the kind of speeds what we are talking, the kind of digital content we are talking, I think wireless networks will never be enough for it. And in any case, the users, 90% of their consumption of data happens only at two locations, his home or his office. So both these places, he has got a Wi-Fi hotspot or a fixed line. So ultimately what we are focusing, we realized that the kind of investment and the kind of money which is required to sustain in this business, let's focus on non-spectrum business. As our company, we decided that we'll be focusing more on non-spectrum business. So we are, very few people know that we are one of the largest fiber to home operator now. In Punjab, we are the leading players, and we have diversified into Haryana and other areas. Wi-Fi broadband is another area, which is something very good. You can reach to real new areas, rural areas where the density of customer is not much. As a starting point, you can do Wi-Fi broadband. And once you get a customer base, you can take the fiber and then you can reach fiber to home. So the biggest, I think the challenge this country will see is as far as A and B grade class cities are concerned, there I think everything will be possible, you'll see a lot of networks. But the issue will come when we try to go more rural. And for going to more rural, I think a blend of technology will be required. We need fiber and we also need wireless, so Wi-Fi, broadband and those kind of technologies will be very useful. And as a customers, customers in more rural areas will probably need all these things more than the people who are in cities. We have got big malls and all those places, but people who are in villages, they also want to have the same quality of life. Now, this is a very favorite topic, on which I always speak, that as compared to developed nations, I think ours is the only country where everybody wants to live in only 50, 55 cities of the country. Whereas, everywhere else, people work in big towns, big cities, but they live in more of rural and villages. The difference is because in India, we are not able to provide them these kind of comforts, convenience, connectivities, electricity, all those basic needs we are not able to provide. The day we are able to provide connectivity in those villages, we are able to provide them uninterrupted power, and education and healthcare to a great extent will be taken care of by digital connectivity. So the life in villages will become better. So the influx of people, who are moving from small towns to big towns, I think that will reduce and a lot of our problems will be taken care of. So this is, I think, the biggest change we'll see with all this digital initiative. And I think our Prime Minister has a right vision because he knows that unless we enable the people who don't have all those facilities, I think we'll not be able to serve the nation well.
So what people probably know is that Videocon is not only into broadband and spectrum and landline, but obviously you're into TVs, and you keep telling me that you visit all these exotic places in Europe where you have manufacturing facilities, ACs. Obviously, these are areas that are going to be impacted by what we're talking about in terms of machine-to-machine communications. Are you really incorporating any of this, or is this just a lot of hype and talk in terms of air conditioners, talking to your refrigerator, talking to your car, talking to your... is this actually getting implemented at the manufacturing level? So your TV becoming quote-unquote smart, your AC becoming smart, is that something you're seeing in the manufacturing side?
Yeah, definitely. In India, if I remember, I think I was probably the second company, if not the first, to launch smart air conditioners. So small refrigerators and small air conditioners were launched by Videocon. And Videocon, as such, as a company, as a brand, we somewhere fall in between. But we are a multi-brand company. We have got 8 different brands. We have got some Japanese acquired brands, some European brands, and under those brands, we sell these products. But the biggest thing is we are a big manufacturer. So we manufacture not only in India, we manufacture in China, Poland, Korea, and Mexico. All those countries we manufacture. And everything what we are producing now is actually integrated with the digital world, like through internets. Whether it is refrigerators, whether it is ACs, TV, of course, smart TVs are nothing but, you're connecting it with that, you can watch Skype and all that on your TV. So all those things are happening.
Yeah, go ahead, Kamal.
I just wanted to add something which I missed out and which I wanted to share with this audience, is that one of the biggest advantages of this whole new paradigm of connected vehicles for India would be the logistics cost. I think currently our logistics cost is about 13% of GDP versus a global average of about 8%. If we get all the vehicles connected and the physical infrastructure also improved along with GST rollout, we have a potential of saving at current GDP size close to $100 billion annually. So that's a big, if we go from 13% to 8%, that's a huge amount of money. And that could be a real big, I would say, gift from this technology, and I think all of us are working towards that. But that's again a big, and also the farm to fork revolution, which we have been talking of, that can see also light of the day.
Okay, let's move on to this issue of Make in India, right? That you've heard so much from the podium, from the minister, from everybody else, all the way from the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister's vision for India. This is certainly something that is key and necessary. Let me ask this, and I'll come to the other panelists as well. IP, are we going to go anywhere without India creating IP? And if we have to start creating IP in India, which is, in my mind, part and parcel of a successful Make in India program, what do we have to do? How do we get here? You're talking about 5G. I don't know, when did you start working on the IP for 5G? Yeah, Paolo.
Well, it might not be too far, but I think it requires a focus. Of course, manufacture is important. I understand why we have that focus, and obviously we are all contributing, and I'm sure to that. IP comes together with the R&D, so I think there must be a focus as well in local R&D. And I think there's quite a lot of it. Maybe it is to be, most of the Indian ICT industry has been more focused maybe on services. Although we have seen a lot of patents being filed in the services space, definitely R&D and technology will generate much more of that. So I think that's definitely one of the aspects. We hold a very large portfolio of patents in the world, and they're all pretty much, although we have filed quite many recently licenses in services, the predominant amount of our licenses are all IP, are all based on the R&D investment. So I think there must be a focus on that aspect as well, I think.
Yeah, either one of you folks, nobody wants to talk about IP, I guess.
No. I think in our case, we have a huge research and development center in India. So we are, our engineers, we have close to 1,000 engineers in Bangalore. And they are designing global trucks sitting in India. Of course, the IPs will rest partly in India, but most of the IPs will rest with the Swedish headquartered company. So there is also legislation in terms of where the IPs can rest, but a lot of work, the good part is a good amount of work. It's not a back office work, it's actually the front-ended work where actually new trucks for the world are being designed sitting in Bangalore. So that's a matter of great pride.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that happens. The simple product, the electronic meter, it's a tamper-proof meter. The last count, I know that there are 37 ways to tamper the meter unless the 38th has come. So that itself is IP, because I don't think anywhere in the world people are so ingenious in how to tamper the meters. And it actually took us, the Ministry of Power and CA, 2 years to design the tamper-proof smart meters. The smart meters are there everywhere in the world, but the tamper-proof smart meter took us 2 years because a whole lot of things we had to do, and finally we have come with a design of a tamper-proof meter. But there is actually a lot of work that is happening over here. And I would say that while it is not the core research that we do, but the application research. And one area that I would tell you is that how do you predict the load flow? This is something which is very different in the Indian context, because the certainty of uncertainty is something that we only can do it, and it's a very localized sort of thing. And this is because the IMD stations which are there are very far and few. We do not have the sophisticated equipments to measure the temperature and the other climatic conditions. And in spite of that, where the accuracy level is 70%, how do you accurately predict what would be your load tomorrow? Because when you have actually a higher or a lower load, you can have a grid instability. And these are the programs and these are the things that we co-innovate with many of the international names, many of the universities from outside. And I think there's a huge IP work that is going on in these areas, because being the first movers in this country, these are things that no one has done ever before, and we need to do that. Similarly, there are a number of products. I think Sunil Mittal mentioned about frugal technology and frugal costing and all that. Today, if we have to do the Internet of Things in the house or the home automation that we are talking of, the Zigbees are frightfully expensive, which is there in the US, and of course they have a different protocol on which they work. And if we have to come up with our own set of Zigbees to have all the electrical gadgets in the house which you can control either through a remote or any other equipment, you need to come up with your own technology for that. And I think the application part of it, there's huge amount of work that is going on.
Arvind?
Yeah, so I think there are two areas of biggest concern in India. One is IPs, definitely, and the other is R&D, and both are interlinked in a way. I've seen, like, in everywhere, like whether it is universities in foreign countries, even students, when they're doing any project and any work, they try to register whatsoever work they do, and they try to get some benefit out of that. There was a time when we were running simultaneously 7 countries, the same manufacturing, What I found that in Mexico, in Italy, in Poland, in Korea, anything which people were doing, and if they were doing something new, they would just talk about it, and there were some patent lists, which we had. The 2 countries, one was China, where they never care for it, right, and India. Like in India, our company was never doing that. Then we started an R&D center, and we have started doing it. But most of the time, when people do something, they don't even realize that this is something on which they can have some kind of a patent right. They should do something about it. Because all the time, whatsoever manufacturing and whatsoever processes we do a lot of jugaad in any case, and we think that it is not something technology. It is just something which has happened, and who in the world will care, if you have a patent for that. So I think that is an area where, as a company, as a country, we should focus.
I guess we ought to patent the term jugaad, I suppose. Anyway, let's just open it to the audience, and If there are any questions, comments, just put up your hand. We'll try.
My name is Gabi Mosler. I'm actually heading patent development within Ericsson. It's a mere coincidence that I'm here, but I could not resist in telling you that we're actually filing hundreds of patents in India, that we are filing patents with Indian inventors, that we are very active in India, and then also we have, as you know, big R&D here, and India is an important country for us for a long time. So we are filing, I'm heading all the patent development, I'm responsible for the whole entire patent portfolio, and I can just promise we have a lot of good patent work here in India, and we're going to continue that. And maybe this gives a little answer to the question, because I think I'm more appropriate to answer this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, wow, yeah. Paolo, you were very, coy about all of this sort of stuff. Is there some secret skunk works going on in the back there? You know,
we had the rabbit.
the rabbit in the house. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I mean, that's great to know about the tremendous amount of work. And that's the other point, right? I don't know whether it comes as a surprise. One, you folks in Ericsson have been here for over 100 years right now, right? And you have more folks working in India than you have in Sweden, right? So, maybe you ought to change the color of your logo to brown or something. I don't know. But anyway, so other comments from the audience?
Oh, fine. My name is Kasser. I'm from Digitalization magazine, so I'm from media. A lot of talks have been done on IoT, and of course we see some exhibitions kind of thing. I need to know the security issues in terms of IoT. Things are taking concrete shape if you talk about IoT, connected cars, and many applications are being rolled out. So what about the security, safeguarding these kind of applications? We also heard about the biohacking new teams coming in Germany. The team of hackers, they are really going for and hacking implanted chips as well. So there is the parallel, nasty developments taking place within the ecosystem called IoT. So I would like to hear from the panel as to what are the security measures and what are the potential hazards around, safeguarding IoT applications and ecosystem. Thank you.
Yeah, so Kamal, if I'm on a Volvo bus headed to Agra, how do I know I'm not headed to Rajasthan after a while?
Absolutely. I think this is a real problem which you've stated. And I think the solution lies in countering it by embedding a greater amount of security in your design, right from design stage. That's one way. Other is, I think the regulations will have to get tougher. Probably the earlier telecom laws, which probably Rajan knows better, they didn't take cognizance of equipment to equipment talking to each other. Probably the cognizance of that was not taken in building the legislations. I think this is a real challenge. All I can say is manufacturers, designers have to build in greater level and level of embedding greater level of security in their designs. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, Praveen, we hear this issue of Stuxnet and taking down the whole sort of grid and the nuclear system of Iran or whatever. And do we have these vulnerabilities? You talked about security. How do we guard against this?
Well, we go through a lot of checks and the firewalls and all that, but it's as good as what it was yesterday. Every day you need to keep on refreshing it. Every day you need to keep on learning that what needs to be done. So it's always a work in progress. I don't think anyone with certainty can say that, yes, it's done and there is nothing wrong that will happen. So I think this is an ongoing process. We need to keep on handling it. There are a lot of things which are there. If there are as many number of hackers, there are that many more number of people who are working to prevent that sort of thing. But this is a continuous fight which will continue for all time to come. This we'll have to take it head on.
Yeah, so Ulf, maybe, I don't know whether you folks have just announced some type of collaboration with Cisco, which means, well, okay, internet is, going to become heart and core of also this network equipment. Any thoughts on this whole issue of security? How are you going to now look into it, because now you've got this additional issue that's come up?
I very much agree with the statement from Volvo. I think we need to start embedding security in our products in the design work already. So that's absolutely fundamental. But in the end, of course, we have to work in true partnership here between industry and governments and the users. Everyone needs to take his or her role safeguarding security in the systems. Because obviously, as we see with this, these networks becoming absolutely ubiquitous, all sectors of society in business are relying on them. But also we need to secure sort of the accountability and the integrity of information to secure that it has not been tampered with. And that's an area where Ericsson is working a lot these days to make sure that the information you get has not actually been tampered with. So it's a lot of work to be done, but integrating it in the design process, I think that's the best start, and then to work in partnership.
Let me just say thank you to all of the panelists, Arvind, Manoj, Kamal, and Paolo. So a hand to them, and let me hand back over to Manoj. Ajay,
Yeah.
if you would take over, thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, this was a great afternoon and evening. My job is very tough to summarize. I think I will do, little justice to summarization of such a great evening when we had the industry leaders speaking in front of us, at least for the first time in my life, at least I got that opportunity. And I think we need to thank all the panelists who came and graciously accepted the invitation to be part of this event. But before we do that, telecom, as I think every panel member talked about, it's needless to say that is the key to growth of the country. It is actually the bedrock of any country's growth. And given the fact that India actually, as Mr. Bali said, has a lot of logistics inefficiencies, and that's one of the reasons why we see growth of e-commerce. If we have broadband networks, and if using telecom, we can drive efficiencies, we will plow back $100 billion into the economy of this country. I think that was an amazing statement, a great takeaway for me. Mr. Minister talked about his vision of digital India, and he touched upon things that we in our research through Consumer Lab see, that in the remote parts of India, in every nook and corner, whether it is a carpenter or it is a person in the slum, they are all using broadband connectivity applications like WhatsApp to drive their business. And I think that's the vision that he articulated, that he wants every Indian to be connected. He talked about digital haves and have-nots. I would just say that, the chairman of TRAI, to my utter surprise, and I really liked his statement that 2 Mbps is not good enough. So digital haves themselves don't have it. We need minimum 10 Mbps. When we showed in our labs 5,000 Mbps of speeds, and we know that in countries like Singapore, 300 Mbps of networks are about to be rolled out, we just can't be satisfied with networks that will barely deliver 2 Mbps. So we have a lot of work to be done. Mr. Mittal articulated very clearly what are the needs of the industry. The good part of this overall discussion was that industry, regulator, and government are working hand in hand to drive this industry forward, because this is, as I said, is the bedrock of our economy, of the growth. And in the end, I would just pick a statement from Ambassador Sandberg that 1,000 broadband connections will create on an average 80 jobs. We are going to have 500 million minimum broadband connections by 2020. That means 5 million additional jobs. So I think that's a great contribution of this industry. This industry is very important in the end. Special thanks to Rajan, who has been a very active moderator for this discussion. I don't know, without him, how can we hold such a panel? Finally, our appreciation from Ericsson to all the representatives of government, DOT, TEC, regulator, TRAI, and customers who are present out here. The industry association and the employees of Ericsson and COAI who worked together, and the embassy of Sweden. We worked together as a great team to put this whole event together for this industry. And we look forward to the same next year, maybe a slightly bigger event, as Rajan said. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you.